Welcome back to Digestible News on this special Christmas edition where we talk about news in digestible English. Before we start, make sure you've got something to drink, whether it's warm or cold, your preference. Today I just have a glass of water. I'm recovering from being sick, so I just want to keep it simple. So nice. What are you drinking today? Please let me know in the comments down below. I always like to hear. Let's take a quick look at the weather for this weekend. This Friday was really cold with a high of around -6 and a low of -12. The weekend will warm up a little with highs around 1 on Saturday and 4 on Sunday, but there will also be a chance of rain. It'll be cold all next week and probably snow, so try to stay warm. All right, let's jump into today's stories. A helicopter crashed on Tanzania's Mount Kilimanjaro on Wednesday, killing all 5 people on board. The Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority confirmed the tragedy on Thursday. Mount Kilimanjaro, as you know, is Africa's highest peak, standing nearly 6,000 meters, or around 20,000 feet, above sea level. The mountain is located in Tanzania in East Africa and is one of the most famous mountains in the world. Every year, around 50,000 tourists climb Kilimanjaro, making it a popular destination for mountain climbers and adventure travelers. According to Tanzania national parks, the 5 victims include a Tanzanian guide, a Tanzanian doctor, a Zimbabwean pilot, and 2 tourists from the Czech Republic. The guide was someone who helps lead climbers up the mountain. The doctor was likely there to provide medical assistance. The helicopter crashed near Barufu Camp, which is one of the camps that climbers use when ascending the mountain. The crash happened at a very high altitude, between 4,670 and 4,700 meters above sea level. That's more than 3 miles high, where the air is very thin and conditions can be extremely challenging. Local media reports, including the Mwananchi newspaper and East Africa TV, said the helicopter was on a medical rescue mission. They cited the head of police for Kilimanjaro region as their source. The medical rescue mission means the helicopter was trying to help someone who was sick or injured on the mountain and needed to be taken to a hospital. Medical emergencies are not uncommon on Mount Kilimanjaro because the mountain is so high, climbers can suffer from altitude sickness. Altitude sickness is what happens when people go too high in elevation too quickly and their bodies don't have enough time to adjust to the lower oxygen levels. Symptoms can include headaches, nausea, dizziness, and difficulty breathing. In some serious cases, altitude sickness can be life-threatening, which is why quick medical evacuation by helicopter is sometimes necessary. The weather and flying conditions near Mount Kilimanjaro can also be very dangerous. The mountain creates its own weather patterns, and conditions can change rapidly. Strong winds, low visibility from clouds or fog, and the thin air at high altitude all make flying near the mountain extremely difficult and risky. The Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority has not yet released information about what caused the crash. Investigations into aircraft accidents typically take time as experts need to examine the crash site, review any flight data, and interview witnesses if there are any. This tragedy is a reminder of the risks involved in mountain rescue operations. Helicopter pilots who conduct rescue missions in mountainous areas are doing extremely dangerous work. They must fly in difficult conditions, often in bad weather, and land in places where there may not be proper landing areas. For the families of the 5 victims, it is devastating. The 2 Czech tourists likely came to Tanzania seeking adventure and the experience of climbing Africa's highest mountain. The Tanzanian guide and doctor were just doing their jobs, helping others, and a Zimbabwean pilot was performing the rescue mission, trying to save someone's life. Our vocabulary for today starts with peak. Peak is a noun. It is the pointed top of the mountain. It's the highest point. In Korea, as you know, if you hike, they'll have a peak stone or a mountain stone at the top that'll say some name or some special hanja for the mountain. Number 2 is altitude. This is also a noun. It is the height of something above sea level, also called elevation. And evacuation is a noun of the verb evacuate, which means the process of removing people from a dangerous place to somewhere safe. For example, it happens in war and in natural disasters as well. All right, let's take a quick sip break. How's everyone doing today? I really hope you're doing well. This Christmas has been quite cold. If you've made it this far, why not subscribe and like the video? It helps me really know what you guys like, and it helps the channel grow. I appreciate it. Let's dive back into the stories. This one is interesting. I'll tell you why. Someone in Arkansas, in America, had an incredibly happy Christmas this year. A lucky lottery player won a massive $1.8 billion Powerball jackpot on Christmas Eve, making it one of the largest lottery prizes in U.S. history. Number 1, this is my home state. This is where I'm from. And number 2, the $1.8 billion Powerball in Korean won is around 2.63 trillion won, or let's say 2조, like 6,346억 won. It's huge amount of money. Some quick math. That's the amount of money you could buy 10,000 nice apartments in Seoul with this amount of money. It's crazy. The winning ticket was sold at a Murphy USA gas station in Cabot, Arkansas. Cabot is near my hometown. Cabot is a suburb of Little Rock, the state capital, with more than 27,000 residents. Right now, we don't know who bought the winning ticket. It's been kept a secret. The winner hasn't come forward yet to claim the prize. The jackpot started smaller, but last-minute ticket sales on Wednesday pushed the final amount to $1.87 billion. The winner can choose between 2 payment options. They can take a lump sum, this means all the money at once, of $834 million, or they can choose an annuitized payment plan. It's a difficult word, but it means receiving one payment immediately and then 29 yearly payments that increase by 5% each year. Most lottery winners choose the lump sum because they want the money right away, even though the total amount is smaller. The jackpot is the second largest lottery prize in U.S. history. It's also the largest Powerball prize of 2025. The only bigger lottery jackpot ever was $2.04 billion, which was won in California in 2022. The winning numbers were 4, 25, 31, 52, and 59, with the red Powerball number 19. There was also a power play multiplier of 2. The power play is an extra feature that players can pay for that multiplies smaller prizes. This was the 47th drawing in the jackpot cycle. A jackpot cycle is the period between when someone wins the big prize and when the next person wins it. 47 drawings in is a record. It's the most drawings ever in a Powerball jackpot cycle. Each time nobody wins, the jackpot grows bigger, which is why the prize became so huge. All right. I wanted to tell this story because it's from my hometown and it's a little bit interesting. Someone very nearby my original home is now a billionaire just because of lottery. Very interesting. All right. Our vocabulary is jackpot. This is a noun. It's the top prize in a lottery or gambling game, the largest amount of money that can be won. Number 2 is lump sum. This is a noun phrase. It means a single payment of money rather than small payments over time. And annuitized is an adjective. It means to be paid out in regular installments, regular amounts, like a salary, over a period of time rather than all at once. What would you pick? Would you pick a lump sum or an annuitized jackpot? Let me know in the comments. I think for me, I would pick annuitized. It's much more money over time. Now we're back in Korean news. American Republican politicians are criticizing the Korean government's investigation into Coupang, the country's largest e-commerce company. This comes after Coupang suffered a massive data breach affecting 33.7 million users. Coupang is headquartered in Seattle, Washington, even though it operates mainly in Korea. The company was founded by Kim Bom-suk, who is also known as Bom Kim. He is a Korean-American businessman. The data breach allegedly happened between June and November 2025 when a former employee leaked personal information of customers. Reports say this former employee is a Chinese national, meaning a citizen of China. However, the American politicians criticizing Korea's investigation have remained silent about this security problem. Robert O'Brien served as National Security Advisor during Donald Trump's first presidency. On Tuesday, he said that Korea's National Assembly is aggressively targeting Coupang. He warned this could lead to more discrimination against American companies by Korean regulators. Trump has worked hard to rebalance the trade relationships with Korea, and it would be very unfortunate if Korea undermines his efforts by targeting U.S. tech firms. This is something O'Brien said. This is not my opinion. But the wording very unfortunate seems suspicious. He called for a strong coordinated U.S. response and claimed Korea's actions help China's growing economy get bigger. Republican Representative Darrell Issa also criticized Korea. He said Coupang is one of several U.S. tech companies facing a campaign of aggression from the Korean government. In a column published Monday by the Daily Caller, a right-wing news website, Issa claimed that Korea's new digital trade laws favor Korean and Chinese businesses while making it difficult for American companies to operate. A U.S. right-wing streaming channel called Real America's Voice made an even more extreme claim. They said that the Korean President Lee Jae-myung issued a directive to bankrupt Coupang. This is false, of course. Lee had urged stronger sanctions against companies involved in data breaches, but he never issued such a directive specifically targeting Coupang. Why are these American politicians defending Coupang so strongly? The answer appears to be money and lobbying. According to the U.S. Senate's lobbying disclosures, Coupang has spent at least $10 million on lobbying in the United States since August 2021. Lobbying means paying people to influence politicians and government officials. The company also donated $1 million to Trump's second inauguration ceremony in January 2025. In some countries, this is very illegal, by the way. In America, it is still very legal. The real word should be bribing, but instead we use lobbying and it's legal. I don't know what to say. Some people in Korea are now worried that Coupang is trying to turn this matter into a diplomatic issue between Korea and the United States. Instead of taking responsibility for the data breach, the company may be using its political connections to pressure the Korean government to stop investigating. The Korean government is taking this situation seriously. On Christmas Day, normally a holiday when government offices are closed, Korea's presidential office ordered an unusual ministerial meeting. The foreign minister and national security officials were told to attend to discuss countermeasures against Coupang's data breach. The National Assembly has also scheduled joint hearings for December 30th and 31st. The Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee will join these hearings to examine whether the Coupang case will affect diplomatic relations between Korea and the United States. There are also questions about why last Thursday's closed-door meeting of the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement Joint Committee was canceled. Representative Issa suggested it was because of Korea's regulation of Coupang and other U.S. tech firms. However, the Korean government explained that the meeting was postponed because both sides needed more time to discuss the agenda. For Korean citizens whose personal information was leaked, this political maneuvering may be frustrating. The main issue is that millions of people's private data was exposed. It's being overshadowed by accusations about trade discrimination and diplomatic relations. Yeah, I got an email about my data being maybe taken as well. So, real fun. All right, our vocabulary today, starting with lobbying, is the act of trying to influence politicians or government officials, often by spending money. The really sad thing is, there's methods of doing lobbying that are hidden or discreet. So you can put money in a super PAC and you don't need to report you gave the money and the politician can use the money. It's feels very illegal. Number 2, directive. This is a noun. It means an official order or instruction from someone in authority. You know, the American government gave a directive, like this way. Number 3, countermeasures. This is a noun. These are actions taken to defend against or respond to something harmful or threatening. All right, before we move on to our next story, take another sip break. More sips from me today. I'm sorry. My throat is recovering still. Okay, more stories here in Korea. Some rural counties in South Korea are trying a bold experiment. They are paying people simply for living there. This program is part of an effort to save small towns from disappearing as more and more people move to the big cities. One example is Okchan, a farming community in North Chungcheong province. Okchan has been losing population for years. However, in just over 2 weeks after being selected for the program, more than 1,000 people moved there. That's an average of 70 residents every day. The program is called Rural Basic Income. Under this scheme, every resident receives 150,000 won, around $102, per month for 2 years. The money is paid in local vouchers, which means it can only be spent in local shops and businesses in the area. For a family of 4, the total benefit amounts to 14.4 million won over the 2-year trial period. This is a significant amount of money, especially in rural areas where incomes and living costs are much, much lower than in big cities like Seoul. The most important thing about this program is that there is no employment requirement. This means people don't need to have a job to receive the money. They just need to live in the designated area. South Korea is facing what officials increasingly call regional extinction. This dramatic term describes what happens when rural areas lose so many people that they can no longer function properly. South Korea's rapid urbanization, meaning people moving from countryside to cities very quickly, has concentrated jobs, education, and infrastructure in the Seoul metropolitan area. Even I moved here when I lived elsewhere for a very long time. Meanwhile, small towns and farming communities steadily lose residents, especially young people. Okchan has officially designated a population decline area in 2021. By early 2022, its population had fallen below 50,000 people. This is an important symbolic threshold for local governments. Until recently, nothing seemed able to reverse this trend. That changed in early December when Okcham was named one of 10 pilot regions for the Basic Income Program. A pilot program is a small-scale test of a policy before implementing it nationwide. The other 9 counties include Yeoncheon in Gyeonggi Province, Chungsan in Gangwon Province, Chungyang in South Chungcheong Province, Suncheong in North Jeolla Province, and Namhae in South Gyeongsang Province. The program will run nationwide from 2026 to 2027. The central government will cover 40% of the costs, and the rest will be split between provincial and local governments. All registered residents in selected regions will receive the benefit regardless of income or employment status. Local officials welcome the increase in population, but they are also concerned about potential problems. The main worry is paper residency, cases where people register an address just to receive payments without actually living in the area. Officials plan on-site checks, verification of housing arrangements, and oversight by community committees who know the local residents. The final list of eligible recipients will be confirmed early next year after these checks are completed. Another main concern is money. Over the 2-year pilot period, Okcham must secure about 53 billion won in funding. This is roughly 30% of the county's entire budget. This means officials must rethink how they can spend on everything else. Because Okcham was selected late for the pilot program, it must cover about 26.5 billion won next year alone. This leaves very little time for long-term budget planning. Officials are scrambling to meet the funding requirement through budget cuts and emergency adjustments. Some local programs have already been suspended. Administrative spending has been trimmed and temporary work hours have been reduced. County officials say they will not cut welfare services and agricultural support for vulnerable residents. However, critics argue the program is reshaping local finances in ways that go far beyond a simple pilot project. There's also an ironic problem. The population growth the program aims to encourage also drives up its cost. The 976 new residents who moved to the area during the surge are expected to raise total payments by more than 3.5 billion won over the next 2 years. At the provincial level, North Chungcheong provinces face similar financial strain. It must pay its share of cost while also dealing with declining tax revenue. Officials have not ruled out issuing additional local bonds, essentially borrowing money, and are urging the central government to increase its funding ratio. Critics argue the program amounts to large-scale fiscal restructuring. This means fundamentally changing how local governments manage their money. They are forcing local governments to be scarce resources on population growth that may only be temporary. So our vocabulary today starts with pilot program. This is a noun phrase. It means a small-scale test or trial of a project before implementing it widely. There's been a lot of pilot programs for universal income in other countries as well. Some found success. Number 2, urbanization. It's a little bit hard to say. This is a noun, of course. The process of more people moving from rural areas to cities. And number 3 is a threshold. This is also a noun. It is a level or point that marks the beginning of something or an important change. So the threshold for them to participate was a certain number of people in their population. Okay, last one. As for our final story today, we're back here in Seoul, and it's going to be some good news. On Christmas Eve, 718 volunteers in Seoul dressed up as Santa Claus and spent the night visiting children from low-income families. They brought gifts, handwritten letters, and most importantly, their time. The volunteers participated in the 20th annual Secret Santa project, organized by the Korean Youth Foundation. This nonprofit program is held every winter holiday season to support children from poor households. The volunteer Santas gathered in Shincheon, Western Seoul, at 4 p.m. on Wednesday for a launch ceremony. Then they spread out across the city. By 10 p.m., they had visited 818 children, delivering presents and letters in person. According to the foundation, many volunteers put in significant effort beyond just Christmas Eve itself. Each applicant paid a participation fee of 20,000 won, which was used to buy the gifts. They also completed a 2-day Santa school training program before the event. During the training, the volunteers learned how to communicate with children and parents. They practiced Christmas carols and simple performances. They also studied the personal circumstances of the children they would visit to help them choose appropriate gifts for each child. The program has been running since 2006. Since it began, around 18,000 volunteers have participated in the Secret Santa project, helping roughly 19,000 children across Seoul. This was a really heartwarming story to me. It shows how ordinary people can really make a difference and make memories that'll last a lifetime. Our vocabulary for this starts with number 1, underprivileged. This is a 2-part adjective, under, privilege, not having the same advantages as most people in society. Another way to say they're poor or have some disadvantage. Number 2 is nonprofit. This is an adjective and a noun. This is an organization that uses its money to help people but does not make profit. Sometimes there's some loopholes and people make money using nonprofit organization, but most of the time, nonprofit. Number 3, circumstances. This is a noun. It is the conditions or facts surrounding a person's situation. All right, that wraps up the news today. I hope you found these stories interesting and easy to follow. I also hope you're staying warm during this cold Christmas and end-of-year time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And let me know in the comments which story stood out to you the most today. Are there any other stories that you want to hear about? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching Digestible News, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious, stay informed, and take care. Bye, guys.